Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid.
I promise you, this is not a political podcast.
Jump, from the deep into the pool, set up the mood. Paranoi Radio, set up the mood. Paranoi Radio, set up the mood. Paranoi Radio, set up the mood. 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 Set up the mood.
Go, bro. Let's make deposits. Let me restart that over. Let's make deposits into the bank of knowledge. Welcome back to Paranoi Radio Podcast, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I am Trebles Garcia, and I want to thank the Lord for allowing me to be here today, and I want to thank every single one of you for allowing me to enter your space. Guys, I have an amazing episode lined up with an amazing special guest. Guys, this guy reached out to me from YouTube. So we're making things happen on YouTube, guys. If you guys are listening to the show today, if you guys are on Rumble, if you guys are anywhere on the world, around the freaking planet, listening to the show today, know that I'm connecting with people on YouTube, engaging on YouTube, and recording with researchers from the other side of the pond. All right, so I had to take a day off of work. I had to amend with the freaking times, and I had to make this work because today we have a very, very special guest on the show. But before anything, I want to remind you that the most important thing that you can do for the show is word of mouth. Check us out at paranoidradio.com. ParanoiRadio.com. Check out their affiliations with Cryptid Warfare Operations Podcast and Crew. Also, check out Ali Christine, Live Parasitic Free with Ali Christine. And check out Flavors of the Forest. Kill those pesky vampires and all those critters trying to attach to you and demonic entities as soon as you walk out your door with Flavors of the Forest. 50% off using Paranoi at checkout. Yeah, finally. Let's jump in from the deep end of the pool and set the freaking mood. My next special guest has not been here before. He's been engaging on YouTube. He watched one of the videos and he told me that he has amazing research that he wishes to put out. And today he is making his debut on ParanoiRadio.com. Please give a warm welcome to Phillip Milburn from the other side of town, from the other side of the world. He's a researcher. He is an entrepreneur, and now he's here to bring his research to you. Milburn, how do you feel?
Feel quite excited. I mean, you'd be surprised how vanishingly rare it is to get anybody that will give me a chance to talk about these things. You are the second on YouTube and the third in any capacity besides informal, just conversation. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. You know what, bro? Sometimes people only care about likes, shares, subscribes. They don't care about, some people don't care about the little guy. Some people don't care about the message. They do it for the money. Quite frankly, this is why I told you guys on my little trailer, wannabe trailer that I dropped on YouTube. Guys, I'm not polished up by all means, bro. I'm an average dude that works 8 hours a day just to provide, profess, and protect my family. I'm not special in any kind of way. I'm a college dropout for you guys' information. I'm tatted up all the way to my neck. Believe me, bro, I am no special being. However, I take the time of day to exercise my rights and also put in the information with people that are genuinely trying to spread good knowledge, like yourself. You have something that might fit with every single female listener on the show today, bro. Talk to me about your research.
I will, but first, try not to get jealous. I'm a secondary school dropout, so I may have just stopped you there.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome,
well,
brother.
Yeah, okay, not every female, as we'll be unpacking. And one thing I need to top this off with is I'm not identifying myself as a doctor. If you are sick with anything benign, worrying, or very dangerous, talk to one of them, okay? I'm not attempting to replace them. I'm not trying to upstage them like I did you with your dropout thing. I'm merely pointing out what I've learned doing my research, which thus far has not been official or done in a lab. I'm aiming to do that at some point. Now that we've got that out of the way, what comes to mind when you see this?
Oh, many different things. I can't really put my hand on the coffee cup.
It nearly was. It's originally fashioned out of potato tin and some cotton. This is what's referred to as an orgone accumulator, and those of us who are habitués of the how do you describe this? You know, the world of cover-ups might recognize it on some level. I'm not going to do a full synopsis of the man's life, but Wilhelm Reich, born in the very late 1800s, was a researcher of the origins of life and the essence of the soul. He was, some have reasoned he was a very advanced version of, was it Mr. Dougal who had those the soul gets 12 grams lighter experiments?
I believe so.
Yeah. Well, his research eventually led him to create devices similar to this, which are, this is 4 layers. You can get away with 3, but it's 4 layers, well, 4 and 3. So it's 3 layers of metal, 4 layers of cotton. The important thing here is those are in nature ferromagnetic and diamagnetic. Placed back to back on repeat, they create a sort of one-way system for electromagnetic energy that functions similar to how a two-way mirror might operate for our vision. You can look in, but they can't look at you back. And what happens is, upon this energy being attracted and filtered, it arrives inside, and with nowhere else to go, is volley fired out of this exit here. Now that identifies the function of this device. Do you know how pain works in the human body on a deeper physiological level?
Please engage. Let me know. I do not know.
Well, the critical thing here is the method of communication. You and I talk or text versus the body talks via electromagnetic signals. So if I pinch myself or claw, I get a bit of pain, and that starts with an electromagnetic signal starting here. It travels up through here, past the gun show, up into the brain. A signal then comes back down, also electromagnetic in nature, through the gun show, back into the hand, and issues the type and the variant of pain. So it's pinching at mild level in the hand. And what we get with the pain relief response is the same. It's electromagnetic. So my hypothesis, separate to a lot of what Reich said, his were far more in depth, but in simpler terms, what you do is you point this at your body part that was suffering from various, not all, but a wide variety of pains, and it would spoof the pain relief response of the brain, leading it to not feel anything. Over to you for questions.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. First of all, you're using magnets, bro, to cure your pain?
I'm using electromagnetic energy. That's not necessarily comparable to something you'd stick onto your fridge, but sort of, or adjacent to.
That is nuts, bro. Does this actually work?
If you're asking in terms of documented evidence, the one thing I can point to is the hycoelastic experiments of the 1980s when it received something of a revival. And the man was researching to see if it could stop some much more serious diseases. The conclusions were, well, that would take unpacking it, that'd take an episode of itself, to be quite honest. But one thing listed was pain relief. And in reference to it working, the success rate that I've observed is hanging around 80%. And a lot of people trialed it for various different things. We've used it on arthritic pain. We've used it on injuries just from like falling, dropping objects onto yourself, anything to that effect. We've used it on trigeminal neuralgia. Do you know what that is?
No.
That's the worst pain documented on medical record. It's when some muscles or nerves up here near the above the nose begin forming up in all the wrong places, and what you end up with is they sort of slam into each other and intertwine. And I'm told that it is on par with having a blowtorch shoved into your face. And zero exaggeration, it is actually that bad.
Wow. I've never seen anybody with that. I'm gonna have to Google that.
You might have done. You would think it looks like someone screaming on the floor, clutching their forehead. It doesn't. You can research that. But yeah, that is scientifically verifiable. And the person who used this, person who used it, put it there. It didn't stop all of it, which, you know, you'd have to be full on knocked out for that to be effective. But it took the edge off of it.
I do have another question. So the way aspirin, Tylenol, Advil, all of these painkillers work is the drug hits the nerve in the brain, so it cuts off the pain, but it doesn't cuts off the pain from source. It doesn't go to where you're damaged, where you're pinched, where you're hurt. It doesn't take it off from there. It cuts it off. It cuts it off at the brain. This works the other way around. This takes off the pain at source.
That is no, I need to specify it doesn't take off the
Okay.
pain at source because there's no real fix for actually mending. I recall one man who had a foot injury. He broke it somehow. So I put it on his foot and he said the pain went away and he was in utter disbelief. He posed for a picture with me and was very, very thrilled. I don't think I've seen anyone that happy in a while, but I had to caution him and I say, please do not sprint, jump, jog, anything that you wouldn't do if the pain was there, don't do it because that bone is still broken and is still mending, even if you can't feel it.
Wow.
So be gentle with it, but at least the pain is gone. And what you were describing earlier with, what was it? Takes out the pain at source. Not exactly. Put it this way, if you were listening to a very subtle tune that was the pain, it might be a voice that's quite soft and you don't particularly hear it all that obviously. But then this comes along and it kind of shouts it down to where you can't hear the thing behind it. That is an apt way of describing it.
Okay.
So it overwhelms the response and sort of if seeing my hand represented feeling the pain, seeing it represents not feeling it. It's not that it isn't there, just that it's beyond perception. And given the nature of the human body, object permanence does not mean to our physical being what it does to our analytical brains, if you get my meaning.
Let me ask you something. Why? Why did you take the time? How did you find this out?
When I was sat at home during 2020, bored out of my mind for obvious reasons, I recalled, it's a cruel irony actually, I was reliving some unpleasant stuff and I recalled that somebody who treated me very badly showed me a channel filled with conspiracy theories. He wasn't that big on it, but we looked at it together. This was before things went really awry. I'm not going to give you that full story because it's pretty ugly. But I recalled it while thinking about him and I thought, okay, I'll look at that. It's a bit of entertainment, if nothing else. So I flicked through a few. Then I heard about this, and given it was only an 8-minute video, very ahead of its time for quality, though. This was released in about 2008-9. I thought to myself, hold on, that sounds chillingly plausible, especially given the attitude that the FDA had towards Reich.
Word.
I'll unpack that in a moment. So I thought, you know what? That's not expensive and that's not complicated. I've always said, if you have it within you to make a loaf of bread, if you're that capable with your hands and you're that rich, it's within reach. So I assembled one that was literally held together with duct tape and it looked very unimpressive. But I put it on myself and I felt something. Now, initially I said, you got to be stingy here. We're going to call that a placebo effect. I didn't get that liberal.
I like it.
I gave it to a then friend of mine who had post-vasectomy pain disorder. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay. I'm still not a doctor, so verify this. You can do, though. I encourage it. That is when, during someone getting a vasectomy, there is a 1 in 50 chance it will feel like somebody is all day, every day. And the doctors don't tell you this until after you've received one. So expecting very little of it, I said, look, humor me, just try. So he uses it, and he says that he can't feel any pain. I took it as a joke initially, a really sick one. And then I asked him again, and he said it was true. And the thing that made me fully believe it is the fact that he's a terrible actor, and if he wanted to deceive me, he couldn't have done it. So that's what told me it probably does work. Following that, I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to give this to other people. So I just toured the town. I gave it to anyone that would make time for me. I gave it to a florist with pain in both of her feet. One of them, it went away a lot. The other one, it went away less so, but still worth having. I gave it to a man who runs the record store, who's only 3 minutes away from me now, for arthritic pain in his hand. His bones were kind of, I can't mimic it, not without breaking my fingers. But if you can imagine this coming out a little bit to an abnormal amount and kind of crooked at all times. And he said that it worked. So I said to him, okay, great, thank you. And then I couldn't give you every example, but I gave it to a lot of different people. I gave it to 2 girls with juvenile arthritis in their knees, and the pain took off very suddenly. They posed for one of them posed for a picture with me, and I could have been reading it wrong, but there might have been flirtation involved, so fellas, get creating. And sorry, I couldn't give you every example. I gave it to a girl with stomach pain for, she didn't identify what it was, but she did say it went away, so I was happy about
Mhm.
that. I gave it to a female friend of mine to see if it stopped her period cramps, and it did. She told me that it took the pain from about 8 out of 10 to 1, and I was blown
Oh my
away by that.
gosh.
Yeah, I know, right? And I've got somebody in Canada seeking to create it for that purpose. Now, I need to make a distinction here. I gave it to another friend of mine for the same thing. I did not see this coming. She had a copper IUD. Are you familiar with those? I'm not, I know you
Mm-mm.
haven't got experience with them, but it's when a small copper implant, not always copper, but sometimes, is put inside of the feminine system to inhibit pain. And because it was made of copper, copper has conductive capacities quite strongly. And I think it
Yeah.
caused them to aggregate so much so that it overdosed and backfired and led to the pain getting worse temporarily. That
Oh
went away,
gosh.
thank God.
Mhm.
And I felt quite guilty and bought her a drink to make up for that.
Mm.
We're still friends. And I thought to myself, all right, I could really make something of this. And this is, have you got any other questions before we carry on?
Yeah, I have multiple. Okay, so I'm gonna hit you with three off the bat so you can take off with the rant again. I'm not in any hurry to interrupt you because I find it fascinating. First of all, you have documented research then. I assume you've given it to people, you have results through in
Um,
extensive periods of time for the past 5 years. Second,
yes.
have you been has anybody tried to take this away from you? What do you call it? What's it made out of? One more time, please. What do you have you patented it?
Okay, those are three questions. Have I documented? Documented was the wrong word. I've written down in documents. I haven't documented, i.e., been to a lab environment, worked in a peer-reviewed setting. So documented was the wrong word. Yes, I've documented, but not that have any major gravitas within the scientific community at current. I'm looking to change that. But I've had many a curveball in my life in 5 years, so there's A, getting those under control, and B, getting my head around that. But we're getting there. Your
I'm a
second
conspiracy
question,
theorist. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm a conspiracy theorist. At this point, the scientific community can shove it because half of the things that they have theorized on is based on theory. I do things at my house that the scientific community has not peer reviewed, as you said, has condemned to be right. Do you know what vapor rub Vicks is? Do you guys have
vapor
that?
rub,
Vicks?
vapor
You
rub
guys
what,
don't?
sorry?
Okay. So you guys, so I'm gonna send you an image of what this is. All it is petroleum jelly with mint on it. And my mom rubbed it on everything. Not only my mom, all Latino community, Mexican older women do this for their children. When anything hurts, and guys, if you guys are listening, if you guys are Latinos, you guys know what I'm talking about. Vicks Vapor Rub goes good on everything and anything that you have pain with. You could even ingest it. It tells you in a bottle not to, but you could even ingest it as a tea. Now, in the scientific community, that's wrong. Okay, so all I'm trying to do is defend your research here, bro. The scientific community might throw it might patent it, I might allow you to freaking make it into a business or something, or I don't know what you're trying to do with it, but you have something that works here, bro. You're taking it very. It seems like you're not giving yourself enough credit.
I'm a bit strict with myself and how I navigate this. The documentation I've made, whether just in here or on paper, is valuable and, can do a lot of things. But I'm conscious of the fact that in the scientific community, you'd have to stress test things a lot harder. We're moving into some, what's the word, controlled experiments, not with pain, with ice. If you take a bottle, stick it in here with another one on top, I'll just get something to illustrate the point. Take a bottle and do that, what you end up with is you'll see the ice freeze up with a bizarre pattern, which can demonstrate you can visualize at that point something not based on opinion, because you can give a placebo effect to the physical body. You can't give one to water.
Okay.
So, with that in mind, we're running some experiments along those lines. And your third question, have I patented it? I've done what's referred to as the poor man's patent, which is you document something, then seal it in an envelope. but I've not officially done it. Add to the fact that I'm sure Wilhelm Reich did back in the 1940s and 50s, so he's probably beaten me to the punch before I learned to walk.
Hmm.
Although the man did say of his inventions that he wanted them to be re-released 50 years after his death when society would be more forward-thinking. And that was fairly accurate as they were released, inspiring the video I first saw.
Not because society is forward thinking, though.
Well, compared with the 1950s, it is in at least some aspects.
Bigger problem.
Did I
You know
answer all
what?
of your questions there?
Yes, you did. Yeah, to a degree, and I respect. You have to take the proper channels to make this happen. The proper way. If you really find any type of value behind it, I understand. But bro, you're sitting on a gold mine.
I don't like the term gold mine because that indicates something commercial. And I don't think you're suggesting commercialize it because I don't think that's ethical. Growing up here in the UK where every third story we see is the Tories are going to privatize slash sell off the NHS. And there's a lot to like in the NHS. It's not perfect, but the ethos behind not having to pay for your healthcare is something I think more countries should lean into. I'm not going to turn this into a full political debate, though,
Hmm.
socio-economical political. What I will say, though, is yeah, it is a gold mine in the sense that there's a great opportunity here, and I want people to, I'm not in this for the money. Not to be a hypocrite, I do have a Patreon on which we take the money to research organ-related things, but I've never denied somebody access to one of these on the basis of financial inability. I've never hidden the. Okay, we're gonna go for a roller coaster ride in a moment. I've never
Hmm.
hidden one of these information as blackmail. Forgive me. This next part's going to be challenging.
Hmm.
So as for a gold mine, yeah, depending on how you use the word, you're quite correct. And this next bit's going to be very difficult for me, so just bear with me.
Okay.
Back in 2022, when we were getting a bit of traction, right? We I was contacted out of the blue by somebody who'd seen some of my work because I'd been discussing with people on the internet. I didn't have a channel at that point, but I'd been talking in sectors of the internet. And it got back to me. Someone said that they were suicidal with pain, right? Because of some sort of nerve damage back there at a little under the head.
Hmm.
And this person told me they were considering killing themselves due to that, among other reasons. You may have to mute that, or
Wow.
you may have to replace that word.
Hmm.
So I offered one of them to them, and they followed the instructions and felt much better for it. They now ride bikes for a living, and this person now has a girlfriend and the likes. But to be quite honest, you know, talking them down talking them down it's immensely stressful. I'm not maligning that person in any sense of the word, and it was you know what? I'm a I don't crumble for nothing, and what I mentioned earlier, I'm a tough man, dare I say it.
Boom.
I I've been through some traumatic experiences in my life, but that was it. I was scared. I'll freely admit I was afraid at that point. But they're doing so much better now. Everything is okay. And I don't like the undercurrent that in someone else's hands, if they were to monopolize this thing, it could have gone extremely
Yeah.
badly.
Yeah. You've helped save a soul, man. You should be completely proud of that.
Well, I think she saved herself. I pointed out bits and pieces of the like the do's and don'ts of this thing. Do you qualify? Here's how to do it. That sort of thing. But when it came to patching herself up mentally and emotionally, she was basically single-handed in doing all of that, mending relationships and whatever it took. I don't know exactly what she went through, but it sounded like she was getting maltreatment and social isolation. And I'm just glad for them at this point that things have stabilized. So that's the reason why, and that's my personal experiences with it. The one thing I'll cover is the FDA, right? So
Mm.
Wilhelm Reich, creator of this thing, and you might say sociologist. Now there are indications that he had some nefarious stuff going on. So I'm not here to glamorize the man, separate the art from the artist, you know?
Mm.
But one thing I want to highlight is that he was jailed for interstate shipment of these devices when they didn't have green light for being sold under a medical pretense. And what's interesting to note here is that there were allegations flying around of him abusing his patients in a manner I don't really want to describe it. Now, the FDA, or no authority, in fact, investigated that. No one looked into it, no one brought him to court over it, no arrest, nothing. But when these things began to, as some have suggested, when these things are supposed to have begun upstaging medicine, at that point they brought out the entire arsenal. And I think it speaks a lot to their sincerity that, cruelty and maltreatment was tolerated, but something that screwed over somebody's monopoly and profit earnings were not. I encourage people to look
As they
into
do and
that.
everything.
Yeah,
Hmm.
look into that in your own time. But you'll see what I mean if you search hard enough.
You hit key points today. I'm just surprised how relaxed you are about it because I'm almost insulted how people tend to overlook. And again, like we started the show when I was breaking down to you, some people do it for the money. People are not here. Some people are really not here to work with others or help others out. But you've managed to help and give one other soul another day with an invention. Have you been persecuted by this? For this?
Persecuted is way too strong of a word. No, I've
For the
been
lack of.
maligned.
Okay.
I've been maligned. I've been emotionally abused in one case. Someone once
Wow.
said to me, I feel like if you'd only lost a few family members to cancer, you wouldn't be so willing to talk about this. And if he'd bothered talking to me, he'd know that I lost my father to cancer. And do I think this thing would have kept him alive? Probably not. But there are other things I believe might have done. Now, I'm not going to get into that because it's a
Mhm.
whole nother kettle of fish. But if I had the chance, I might have punched that guy in the throat for that statement. It was a horrible thing to say. He didn't even bother to ask. Let's not make it all about that, though. Mostly it's just taken the form of insults, but I never had any legal trouble over it. I've never had any sort of formal thing from authorities over it. And that's partly because I make a point of identifying I'm not a doctor, I'm not claiming to be, I'm not guaranteeing anything to you. Except that point that you could research about post-vasectomy pain syndrome, what it is. That is verifiable, so I'll treat it as such. But I'm very careful with my wording, so I've not run into any official trouble.
My condolences.
Yeah, thanks.
I lost my mother 2 years ago for the same thing, cancer. And it
I'm
was
sorry
very
to hear
fast.
it.
It developed very, very fast. So I can tell you right now, it's a horrible feeling, and I don't wish that upon anybody.
Yeah, I think the first time I knew something was wrong, he was dead less than 2 weeks later. It was very, shock over suspense.
Yes. Boom,
There's a
boom, boom.
director in Hollywood who's famous for that. I can't remember their name.
I don't recall his name either, but it's intense. Okay, so maligned. I'm not sure if excuse my thick accent. Then you have, then you have the creation. You've patented it. I mean, poor man's patent
Yeah.
distribution.
Distribution. Okay, originally we sent these things via the mail. That was stupid because in going through the mail, everything receives an X-ray, and X-ray in nature is toxic. But given the composite of this and how it interacts, we know this because Reich tried something similar where he tried to sort of diffuse active uranium by projecting orgone onto it. But it backfired, and instead of the orgone overwhelming the radiation overpowered it. He got everybody in the lab sick and had to cancel the experiments. And he also draw the conclusion that you can't isolate orgone because in his thinking it is everywhere. You can accumulate it and you can concentrate it, but isolating is not possible within the laws of physics, at least as he understands them or represented them. There was another point you were going to make. Pardon me. Can you just jog my memory? What did you ask me before?
Distribution.
Ah, yes, yeah. So in putting this through the mail, it received an X-ray, and the human being gets an X-ray, they're over it very quickly. If you linger on an X-ray, you will get very sick.
Yeah.
And because of the the capacities and the what is done with these things, they retained it. So what we turned it into was basically a mobile X-ray thing, and it ended up backfiring in one case and made somebody feel kind of queasy. I didn't understand it. I just said, okay, get off it. We'll talk to you when we're sure. And we theorized that it was because of receiving an X-ray. That or it went through like near to a nuclear power plant when it was going on the Trans American Railway from New York all the way to the Pacific. So we don't distribute simply because it's not feasible. But what we do have, as you mentioned before, with not trying to monetize this, is we've got a video on YouTube that is free to watch. We don't even run ads. Well, you might get ads. I didn't ask for them. We don't officially run ads on it, where people can be walked through how to create one of these things for the price of sod all. And from what I can understand, at one point in my life when I was feeling incredibly low, between that person who had the back issue cheering me up a bit, I also got a message off someone from Pakistan saying that he'd followed our instruction, given one of these to his grandmother, and her knee stopped hurting and she was able to get a bit more active for it. So to know that we'd that was our first documented intercontinental case, and it lifted my spirits at a time when I was feeling dangerously low myself.
I'm proud of you. I'm
Thank
happy
you.
that you're working very, very hard. And we need more people like you on Earth. I do have one last question. Secondary effects.
Oh, yes. Well, good. It's good you should point that out. Besides relieving pain, you don't have to be in pain to get a detectable response from these. It depends a bit on who you are personally and where you put them. But it's been known to have some similar overlaps with booze. If you put it on your head, it tends to make you feel sleepy and your concentration improves, or at least your ability to not overthink improves, but it tends to have a sort of nullifying effect. If you put it on your heart, you'll feel a bit more loving and open emotionally. That's just my experience, for example. But one thing that's pretty prevalent across everybody, if you put it on your stomach, assuming you don't have any metal implants inside of you and you're not suffered from radiation poisoning, if you tick either of those boxes, don't point it at that part. But if you point it at your stomach, you'll start to feel a bit more drunk and a bit more rowdy and uninhibited. So I would not recommend driving, operating machinery, or
Look at that.
socializing outside of your rowdy pub mates when you're using one of these things.
Wow. Again, do you mind sending me the links to the channel, to the YouTube video you have up, so that people can learn how to do this at work and at home and anywhere? Guys, if you guys are listening or watching, it's a cup. It's a freaking cup that you point it over your body. It's surreal of how simple it looks.
Yeah.
It's a
I
freaking
mean,
cup.
thing is, I'm aware that I'm looking unimpressive. That's one of the first things that was pointed out to me when I showed a few people en masse in Liverpool, of which I think three walked away feeling less pain. But what I say to you is, if you think it's unlikely, if you think that you shouldn't be taking it from a secondary school dropout, that's all valid criticism, okay? But, try it. It's highly inexpensive. I don't personally make any money off of this. If you do it, and you stand to gain a lot. At bare minimum, you'll prove me wrong, or you'll prove that it doesn't fix everything. And at maximum, it could take away a lot of pain in your life. And I don't do this for the money or the glory. That means nothing to me. You know, I have a job as a blue collar fool. I don't have to depend on this. And what I'll add on to this is I'll send some links if you wish, but this might just fill in some blanks. Can you see that clearly?
It's a little blurry. But if you send me an image through email, I'm sure
Yeah.
I put it up.
I'll send you an image or a channel link or something to that effect. So yeah, I can leave links
Please.
to every part of this. Does that cover everything?
That does cover everything, but I am going to ask you for one last favor.
Uh-huh.
I want you to tell people where they can find you right now. And then I'm also going to put you in contact with some other podcasters that I know that are doing a lot better than I am
For
on
real.
YouTube and every other else.
You are a godsend, and I was going to offer you this anyway, but I wanted to point out you mentioned in passing, did you say wife and two daughters?
Yes?
This might be applicable to them depending on age and the presence of a copper IUD. So maybe talk them through this if you think if you're open to it, see if it does anything for them. You may also have to be cognizant of how much pollution is in your area. If you're in a very polluted area downtown, I'd put it on something unimportant first and then move it over. Take some baby steps. But it might serve them well. It could even serve you well if you take a knock for any reason.
I love it. I will.
So
Thank you so
yeah,
much.
thanks. I'll send you all those things, and huge thanks for throwing me a lifeline with other people involved.
Absolutely. I have that 50% of what we do here, at least in the podcast community, is community. 50%, guys. So having connections, sharing each other's contacts, but most importantly, putting out messages for healing, for helping each other from average Joes, just like Phil and I. Please let the world know where they can find you one more time.
That's Anomaly Research Labs on YouTube. It can be found with just put it into the search bar, simple as.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you guys enjoyed and you are watching on YouTube, make sure you check us out on ParanoidRadio.com. And also, I am a little late on responding on this, but if you guys give me a quick little drum roll, I am going to pull out, and I have...
Oh, sorry. Let's just do that one more time. Ready?
Yeah.
As your drum roll.
I want to make sure you guys have a quick check out, quick shout outs to Chrissy Kapala. What? Chrissy Kapala on Instagram. This episode goes out to you. You are the listener of the week. Mad love and respect for always engaging, giving us likes, and following us on Instagram. If you haven't already done so, make sure you check us out on YouTube. Guys, like, share, subscribe, drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. That allows other people to enjoy the show as much as I enjoy making it. Peace.